Welcome. I'm so happy you're here. I thought that it would be fun to share kind of a little bit about my spiritual journey so far. And I would love if you see yourself in any of it, if you want to comment below so we can kind of start a little conversation about it. I think it can be really fun sharing stories and kind of seeing the parts that kind of line up. Now, I could talk about this for probably hours, so I'm going to try to condense things and just kind of give an overall of a few things that we can talk about. And I thought it'd be fun to start when I was a kid. So kids are so open and intuitive, right? I don't remember a lot as a kid, but the parts I do remember when I did feel like I was interacting with spirit is there was this one really fun time. I remember all these orbs. They were like beautiful colors and they were all over the house. And me and my sister, she's 3 years younger than me, we were just running through them and we were like laughing and they were like going down the stairs. And this is my only like fun thing, I think, with spirit. And I remember asking her years later, like, do you remember that? Like, did you actually see the orbs or was it just me that was seeing them and you were playing along? I think she was playing along with me. But I remember it was just so cool. And that was the only cool thing when I was little that was like fun. I do remember at night I was petrified of the dark. I was petrified of the dark until probably 5 years ago. Petrified. I used to see like a witch behind my door and I would see the smoke from her cauldron like going behind my door. I remember there used to be like a man's silhouette that would be like outside my bedroom door looking in. Creepy. But then again, it's like, was that like an ancestor just checking in on me? I mean, I get a yes, but so I'm gonna go with that it wasn't creepy. It was like an ancestor checking in, but to a little kid, super creepy. And then I do remember one time I was in the basement and it was a thunderstorm, so like maybe I got shocked, but I literally felt someone kick me from behind and there was nobody there. And I have always been terrified of my basement and I've had so many dreams of my childhood basement. I actually just recently energetically went into my childhood basement and cleared a bunch of stuff that I wish I had known how to do 37 years ago. So that's really, as a kid, that's the only really big things I had with spirit. I think I probably shut a lot out because I was so terrified. So I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, from, my whole childhood, I had all this contact with spirit. I feel like I didn't because I was so scared. And then I do remember also as a kid one time going, I live in Massachusetts, which is right near Salem, where like, a ton of witches got killed. And I remember we went to like the Salem Witch Museum or something, and we were all sitting in this like amphitheater, and over like on one of the things, it was like different parts were like lighting up with voices of like witches or people killing witches. It was actually really traumatic. But what's interesting is it wasn't traumatic for anyone else in my family. Like my sister doesn't even remember it. My mom doesn't remember it. She knows we went, but she doesn't remember any of it. But like there was one part where one of the voices lit up and it was someone saying like, put more rocks on. They were like crushing their ribs with rocks. And I was like, I had such a visceral reaction to it. And it just like kept replaying in my mind for years. And then later, once I got into this work, years later, 30 years later probably, I figured out I did have a past life as a witch and got killed that way, but not in Salem. So it makes sense why I had such a big reaction to that. And then I feel like nothing really happened like for a while in my childhood. I did play with a Ouija board once at a friend's house. Freaked me out so much that I feel like I didn't touch anything related to anything like that for years after that. I was so scared of my friend's house after that. Her house already was it had like those like scary kind of dolls in it in one of the rooms. I think she had told us her house was haunted. Definitely a spirit came through and was telling us things. Now I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe we played with that. So now like when I teach like how to use a pendulum and stuff, I'm like, you want to know who you're connecting with. And we were like, come on in, whoever wants to play with us. Don't do that. Feel free to share your Ouija board stories below. Yeah, and so that was really all from my childhood that I remember that feels really significant. And then really like fast forward to when I was like 30 and pregnant with my first kid. That's when I would say if you want to say like my spiritual awakening really started. For me, it's not like this big, I feel like so many people have this like big fantastical story of like something huge happens and then like spirit opens up to them, or I don't know. For me, it wasn't like that. I think it started when I was pregnant because I started looking outside of myself a little more, and I started looking for like natural products for food, natural skin products, hair products. And I started realizing, like, this sounds so dumb that I didn't know before, but I started realizing that like all the big companies, like they don't care so much about the people that use their products. They just want the money. They don't care if it's like has harmful chemicals or anything in it. For me, that was like jarring. I had no clue up until that point. Like no clue. It's just out of my awareness. And so that's when I started really looking into that kind of stuff and just a more like simple way of living without all the chemicals that are in literally everything. And yeah, so that's really where I feel like my spiritual awakening started. To me, a spiritual awakening is just when our perspective starts changing. So we're no longer just like do the everyday thing that we're doing. All of a sudden we're looking a little like more outside of us and being like, oh, there's this whole big world and not everyone has the best motives for us. Yeah, that started when I was pregnant. And then from there, I really wanted to raise I grew up, so my mom is Jewish, my dad grew up Catholic, but I would probably say he's an atheist. So we didn't have we had holidays growing up, but not a lot of like religion. Like we didn't go to temple, we didn't go to church. So I was sort of a blank slate in a way, but I wanted to raise my son with something. Like I liked the morals of religion, I guess, depending how you look at the teachings. But I liked a lot of the idea of the teachings of, love and kindness and that kind of community. So I remember I bought like the world's religion book and I'm like searching through. I'm like, which one am I? Like, which one can I be? And I'm like, none of these. Like, none of these. I think there was one that I was like, oh, it was like humanism or something. It was just like being a good human. I was like, I could get behind that. But even then, it just felt so boxy, I guess, and that's not what I was looking for. I remember asking my yoga teacher, like, how do I like have him grow up with like this? And she didn't have a book to recommend. Because that's how I learn. I'm always like, give me the book. Like, I want to learn from the book and then I'll like implement it in my life. That's just how I do things usually. But there was no book. And I realized there isn't a book. It was just, I needed to live it. And it was what I was going to show him is how he was going to perceive the world, which led me down more natural products and more realizing not everyone has our best motives in mind. And just, yeah, I guess the next biggest thing really, this is also probably gonna sound silly, was accepting my hair. For me, accepting my hair, so self-love, right? I think the journey of self-love, I would assume, tell me in the comments below, I don't know, but I would assume that's like a big stepping stone for a lot of people on this journey is learning like, I thought I loved myself before getting on this path and like, I didn't even know who I was. I didn't know what I liked. I never made a decision in my life until my wedding. It was like, whatever you want, go with the flow. And I wasn't doing it to like be like this all high and mighty person. Nice person. I just honestly didn't care. It was like, whatever you want, whatever you want, whatever you want. I had no, I had nothing where I was like, yes, this is what I like. This is what I like to do. It's like, just go with the flow always. And I'm still very much go with the flow, but I'm learning how to have an opinion or like actually have things I like to do. But with my hair, I used to straighten it a lot, which took forever. I have very thick hair and a lot of it. and it would take so long to straighten it. And then if you have wavy hair at all, you know, like if the weather's just a little off or it gets a little wet or you get a little sweaty, your nice, beautiful hair that you know you straightened for the wedding, someone else's wedding, it's like poofs out and looks horrible. And I always wore it up. I never wore my hair down, never. And so I went on this little journey of accepting my hair with my natural hair products. I use Inner Sense, by the way, if you care. Anyway, it led me down to actually wearing my hair down, which again, this is going to sound so simple, but I remember getting in the car and being able to just rest my head on the back of the seat. And it was so nice because I always had this massive like bun back here. And if I wore on the top of my head, I'd get like a huge headache. And it was just so freeing. So I just wanted to share that because so many times on this spiritual journey, it's the little things that really end up having massive ripple effects. And that was a huge thing for me, being able to accept wearing my hair down and liking my hair and not trying to like hide it back or change it all the time. That was really, really huge. Yeah, okay. Let's fast forward a little more. I read The Universe Has Your Back by Gabby Bernstein. By the way, in the description, I'm going to have a little link if you want to download. I have a free ebook where I have like 4 of my favorite tools that I like to use, and my favorites. The personal development book that I wrote in there is Universe. The Universe Has My Back by her, which is why I'm mentioning it now. That book, like, again, this is going to sound so simple. I didn't realize you could pray if you weren't religious. I didn't realize like you can still do that. You can pray for people. You can pray for what you want. You can pray for appreciation. Like I just didn't realize that until that book. And it was like, that book really just opened up so much expansive thinking in a lot of ways. Now, if I read it, I'd probably be like, oh my God, it's so simple. But like back just a few years ago when I read that book, it was like mind-blowing to me. Mind-blowing. So that book was huge. I did end up seeing Gabby Bernstein twice, one at like a yoga retreat and then one somewhere else. Yeah, she definitely had a very big impact on where I was going, which was really, really awesome. So if you can find a good book that you like with a good mentor, I don't really follow her now so much, but that really like got me onto where I was going. And I feel like that's really when I started getting into more stuff. So up until this point, I've been like interested in things. Like I always thought like, you know, the stores with the crystals and everything, I always thought they were cool and like intriguing. And I thought cards were intriguing and like stuff like that was intriguing and cool, but I wasn't into it. I was like, I think I was afraid what people would think if I like started getting into it. It was probably just a way of like my human self trying to keep me safe in a way, which really wasn't at all. But then I know in 2019, this is when I went to see Gabby. In 2019, I went to Kripalu, which is a retreat yoga retreat place in Western Mass. And I bought my first pendulum. And I remember I was like, I didn't want to like show it to anybody. I showed it to my roommate that I was staying with, but I didn't want like anyone to know that I had this pendulum. Like, oh my God, a pendulum. Which is so funny now because I would just like have them all around the house. But at the time it was like, I didn't want people to know. I didn't know what they would like, I don't know, you know, you're in your head. I do feel like at the beginning of your journey, some of it does have to kind of stay close to your chest as you're learning what you're even interested in or what you're into. And then I think as you get more comfortable with yourself in it, it's easier to share it. Like, I remember the first time I posted something on social media and I had like the pendulum like barely sticking in the picture. Like I was like, oh, maybe someone will notice, but I kind of hope they don't. It's like just funny because now I'm like just teaching this stuff like out in the open, in the obvious. But then, as you know, after 2019 comes 2020. So 2020 plus years, now I'm basically just in my house. I very much bubbled. Thank you, COVID. We really didn't do a lot at all. But this is where I really started getting into like all the things. I started reading cards. I signed up for my first Reiki class online. I really started following like what seemed exciting. When I signed up for my first Reiki course, I didn't even know what Reiki was. I was just like, I know I want to do that. No clue. I didn't even pronounce it right. I didn't even know how to say Reiki because it doesn't really look like Reiki when you look at it until you know what it says. But yeah, it was just like really opening up and taking like classes and getting to know more. And then I had this like experience where I'm not going to fully go into it, but I basically was getting like a message from spirit for someone else, from my friend. And I realized I could use my pendulum and like letters on a paper to get kind of like a Ouija board, but not scary, to get messages for people. So then I really started connecting with spirit more and starting to get messages more. And really, the more I used my cards and the more my intuition came on, and then the better I could get messages from spirit. And it really just, I feel like, kept snowballing in this really neat way. But still, I'm like all at home. But then I did start teaching online courses, still taking all the courses. Yeah. And then I guess that kind of lands me to now. As like I said, I don't want to go on forever, but I wanted to share a little bit about kind of how I got where I am. And over this time, there's been a process, I feel like, that I've learned through my own working with my own guides, probably reading all the books I read, the YouTube videos, the courses, where I do have like a process now of how to use a pendulum, how to clear things, how to use your cards to actually take action and not just be like, oh, pretty card today, or oh, what is this? To really figure out what the cards are trying to tell you, taking action on them, clearing what you need to clear, and really just allowing this path to just unfold in such a beautiful way. That it's been pretty cool seeing as my skills develop and seeing what comes up and the friendships I've made, and learning. I think the biggest part of it is just learning how to be you, like the most me I can be, and how to do it and be okay no matter what anyone else feels about it. Yeah, I think it's very freeing. I should say it's also, a little caveat on the end, it has also been extremely uncomfortable. Extremely uncomfortable. And when you have to look at yourself all the time, it's no longer like you can, if you're really on this path for real, there's no more like blaming everyone that's out there. It's like, okay, where's my part in this? Where's my part in this? What do I need to look at? Why is that triggering me so much? Where do I need to up level? How do I need to behave differently in the world to myself first? And then I think it ripples out to your relationships. How am I not living at my highest potential in this relationship? What part is mine? Just yesterday, I got the message like, basically, I'm not paying enough attention to my kids. And I'm like, no, I am. And I'm like, damn it, I'm not. I definitely haven't been involved as involved. I think we came into a little rut just with like people getting sick and the holidays and whatever. I can blame. I could blame all these outside things, right? But at the end of the day, it's like the message is you need to interact with your kids more. I'm like, damn it, you're right. So what I interacted with my kids more. But you have to look at yourself. You have to be willing to look at yourself and your role in what's happening and where you want to move towards, because you're not going to up level and you're not going to be able to unfold on the path if you're not able and willing to really reflect on yourself and your actions and realize that you are the only person that you can control. So why not control it in the best aligned way? Okay, I can't wait to hear some of your stories below. And like I said, I have that link for that ebook if you want to grab that. There's got some of my favorite things in there, and it's really pretty. And then we can be connected in another way. So I hope that was at least helpful, or I don't know, entertaining, who knows, but I'll see you in the comments. Bye.